Good afternoon, and it's a little more dim here I think, but you'll have to deal with it. It's a hot day. I'm not under bright lights, thank goodness for that, and there's no sun coming through the window because of the time of the day. Something wonderful happened today. I don't know whether you are interested in interstellar travels, space travels, but Voyager number 2, after 41 years of travel, has just passed Saturn's moon called Io. Now, ever since my children were very small, I've happened to think that Io is my home planet. And so to have a picture of Voyager 2 passing Io is just quite a lovely experience. I feel that it's my home planet because when the kids were small, they used to introduce me to their friends as, "This is our mother, the alien." Well, I never minded the tag, but I didn't have a story to go with it, and they used to ask me. So I discovered a story when I discovered Io. So I've always felt that I was the Reverend Mother from the planet Io, just in case you're interested. I have it here that the lovely Voyager 2 is 11 billion miles from Earth. So that's how far Io is in actual huff and puff kind of primitive space travel, but I can assure you that there are better ways. Okay, hypermobility. So I have had quite a few people contact me, as you can imagine, thankfully on email, because I can deal with that. yogafirst@netcon.net.au, just in case you want to chat with me. I prefer that way. And people are still confused about the word hypermobility. Hypermobility, yes, it can be that person in class who can twist themselves into knots and can sleep in a suitcase, but it is not only that. And yes, it is a genetic condition, and there is no such thing as benign hypermobility. If you have hypermobility, it is saying to you that you have a collagen problem, a genetic collagen problem. And as collagen appears everywhere in the body, you have a genetic problem that will occur in any and all areas of the body. You might know you have it, it might be huge, it won't take your life unless you let it. By that I mean, there's a lot of people who have a whole lot of symptoms. They get very depressed by the medical profession and start self-medicating. So from that point of view, it can take your life away. So this person said, "I just wondered if there was an angle you were coming from." No, I don't have an angle. As many people say that a person can be hypermobile and have no underlying condition. It's just natural and genetic, the way blue eyes are genetic. Well, a person can be hypermobile, but there is no way they can have no underlying condition. Hypermobility is the flag that says, "Hello there, you have a lot of underlying conditions, things that you don't know that you have perhaps, or have never linked to your hypermobility, like irritable bowel syndrome, for instance." This person says, "Personally, I don't think, I believe and feel every person with pronounced hypermobility is at risk of secondary conditions, and that future research will identify there's no such thing as benign hypermobility." I think that present research, if you look in the right places, has said that there's no such thing as benign hypermobility. If it's a collagen problem, and it is, and the collagen problem is genetic, then there is no such thing as benign hypermobility. Just one thing follows the other naturally, I would say. I'm not a medical doctor, and I certainly am not a scientist, but that would seem to be sensible to me. Now, if you've been following the course, yesterday we did what is collagen and what is its function, and we thought about motor neurons, and we thought about our yoga practice. There isn't a particular practice for hypermobility, although there is a series of movements that I have taken from a number of sources that work on the cerebrospinal connection, which seems to really help those people with hypermobility. What I would say is that please, if you've got hypermobile prenatal persons, and I've said this before, the beanbag is the handiest piece of equipment you have, because if they're hypermobile to some extent, then they're having real trouble with their hips, and as they advance into pregnancy, this will become more noticeable. So it's really important that they don't overstretch and overstrain, that they're comfortable the whole time. And a beanbag will help that. So my question somebody asked me was, is there such a thing as too flexible? And the answer to that is definitely yes. Too flexible is out on the outer edges of hypermobility. Sorry, I got a frog in my throat. And when a person is too flexible, it means that when they extend their arm, they're trying to put their arm straight up in the air, perhaps in Trikonasana, and their arm goes out to the back. Why does it do that? It does that because they can't feel where they are in space. There is no stop on the muscle, so they're kind of feeling their way into the pose. Unfortunately, they're feeling themselves too far into the pose. Therefore, by the time they get to feeling where they are, they'll be too far and could damage themselves. So the main thing about your asana when you're doing yoga asanas is about stability, and it's about strength, and it's about drawing the muscles back in, not pushing them out. It's learning to feel the muscles. When I do this, when I draw my muscle, when I draw my shoulder into itself, I can really feel it. And people who are hypermobile, they can feel that too. But when they put their arm out, just say they got hyperflex arms, they put their arms out, they can't feel it until they're a little bit too far. That's why we use straps, and that's why we use things of that nature to help us. Even a tie from the salvos used appropriately will do. You don't need to spend a lot of money on props and bits and pieces. Just whatever you have that's comfortable will work. So just in case I missed something out, the list that I have compiled here from considerable research tells me that a hypermobile student could be experiencing these following symptoms because of the genetic nature of the problem and the fact that it's a collagen problem. Now please understand, this is my research. I'm not a doctor. If you want to take it further, you take it further. If you don't believe me, that's fine. These are my research. This is what I work on. I think it's sensible. You may not think it's sensible. If you've got a collagen problem, it's happening in your brain as well as everywhere else. In your brain, in your teeth, everywhere. In your eyeballs, everywhere. So a person could be experiencing dyslexia. They could have trouble with numbers and sequences. It mightn't happen every day. It just happens, you just, but somebody might be drastically having misunderstandings. Like one of my students who's hypermobile, I knew that she was hypermobile because of the kind of yoga that she was doing when she first came into class. And our first class together, I said, well, please face the narrow end of the mat. And she looked at me stunned and she said, well, which is the narrow end? The mat is narrow all the way down. She just didn't see or think about things the same way I did. Didn't make her wrong. It just means that her neural pathways are distorted and different. They might have a problem getting up from a pose, although they haven't got high blood pressure. They could get dizzy in head down postures. They could suffer from chronic pain. They could suffer from fatigue, a kind of person that needs a whole lot more, not just a little bit of extra rest when they be busy, but generally heaps. They could have IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, or eating disorders. They could have higher rates of anxiety and depression. And, if somebody has been wrongly assessed and wrongly treated, they could be going to a therapist for that, and a therapist for their learning disorders, and a therapist for their sleep disorder, and a therapist, and they might be going to 6 different therapists. None of the therapists speak to each other. None of them understand what the other one's doing. And the person in the end just says, oh, I'm done with this, and starts to self-medicate. And I'm not talking about vitamin C. They're doing sort of hard stuff because nothing else works. So, thankfully they'll come to you, dear yoga teacher, and you'll say, aha, this is what the problem is, let's work on this. They are at the moment realizing that there could be a link between hypermobility, Alzheimer's and dementia, which makes great sense to me when you look at collagen, where it is and what a malformation could do to the brain. So hypermobility, or whatever you want to call it, is not just one thing, but a group of things, group of different genetic variations. So we can't look at it as one thing, but we can teach it in a new way. So there isn't an asana for hypermobility, but there are ways to do asana for hypermobility. So we'll cover a few of these here, but there's a great list. So as I said, we have to guide our students into being stable rather than being flashy, which everybody wants to be. A student who's always been told, oh my goodness me, you are just beautiful in yoga. Oh, look at that turnout. Look at where you can put your arms. Oh, and everybody in the class stops and goes clap, clap, clap. And now we're saying to them, for your body, the best thing would be to bring that arm back here and to do this and to do that. And they're no longer flashy. Are they going to be happy about that? No. They want to be the Nureyev in the class. They want to be the star. And they can't be. We don't want them to be a star. We have to say to them, well, you can go on doing it your way, but in time you will wreck your joints. You have a choice, whatever you want to do. So guide your students to pulling their limbs back into their sockets, not pushing them out. And a hypermobile person, and when hypermobile, I'm not talking about totally flexible, I'm talking about somebody who's exhibiting the syndrome. They could be very flexible in one area and very tight in the other. For myself, I was hypermobile. Well, I'm hypermobile, but I was too flexible in the ankles and the knees and the hips, and inflexible at the top. And I got chucked out of ballet when I was 14, and because the Russians aren't very calm about that kind of thing. But I wouldn't have come to yoga seriously if that hadn't happened, so that was good. So educate your students about edge, because hypermobile students, people who are too flexible, haven't got any idea about edge. Be prepared to adjust a student's alignment over and over and over again, because these students, they need to be told a number of times. Their body awareness is not the same as yours. Only offer one verbal adjustment at a time, and understand that these students will get tired more quickly than others. They're dealing with new concepts, they're trying to listen to you, they're trying to adapt, so this is taking a lot of energy. Try and get the students to come along to your philosophy classes, because it's important that they understand that physical practice is just an opportunity in which yoga can occur. It is not yoga. Yoga is the other things. When you do this, when you go into the philosophy of the poses and the philosophy of yoga, you will be helping your student to understand the dynamics of the posture rather than the stretch. You know, I don't mind whether my students come to class in pajamas, and some do. We're not into the lycra. We're into learning about ourselves, the body, the mind, and the spirit. Yoga means to yoke. It doesn't mean to balance on a tightrope. So try not to be negative, you know. Try to approach the student with a positive attitude towards what they're doing. Understand that in yoga, good as it may be, is probably not the right thing for a hypermobile person, because holding an extreme pose, however supported, for 5 minutes is too long. And I use the word extreme pose because if you were in warrior, even if you had a bolster under your knee or anything like that, the hips are really still too far stretched. Be mindful of your own projections. Don't be scared when people pop joints if they're hypermobile, because they do this all the time. I always say to a student who's hypermobile, you know, do you have any problems with your joints, you know, extraordinary bits? And sometimes they say, oh yes, we always pop our knees in yoga. Well, do you know how to put it back? Yes. Do you put it back often? Yes. Well, I will just leave you to deal with that, but understand if you fail to put it back, or if there's an ongoing problem, I will make a telephone call and bring somebody to help you with that. They'll probably come in a car with lights. If your student isn't aware that they're hypermobile, then you're going to have to tread gently and perhaps talk to them after class and suggest that it might be possible. Don't bang them over the head with it. Just say, you know, I've been watching your body and it occurs to me that there's a possibility that you could be hypermobile, which may answer a few questions. Would you like to know more about it? And if they say no, leave it alone. If your student is an experienced yogi, don't take their practice to bits. They're an experienced yogi. Help them gently. You know what Dalai Lama says? Kindness. Some people with hypermobility are housebound, and some people are in wheelchairs, and some people are performing in Cirque du Soleil. There isn't a prescription or a definition of the person, and I'm seeing more and more and more hypermobile people, and I don't know whether it's caused by computer screen radiation, because sunbed radiation changes your collagen. All those kind of things could be coming into the picture. Anyway, I'm seeing it a whole lot more, and I've been doing it for 50 years. And that's why I'm talking to you. So that's just skimming over a few problems and a few ways of solving them. You'll find the rest in the course. So it's important, if you've got someone who's very hypermobile, to perhaps schedule a once a month one-on-one so that you can see how they're progressing, make notes about them, and deal with them on a much more professional basis, consultative basis, because some people really need it. So there we are. So the questions are just what I've been talking about: what's flexible, what's not flexible, what's too flexible, what is a collagen malformation, how could dementia be related, how would you recognize it, how would you teach to it, etc., etc. So if you go to the course, you will see those questions. They're not difficult, and they will help you to understand what you're looking at. It's all right for me to sit here and skim through it, but if you look at the course, you'll find a much more in-depth idea of what this thing called hypermobility is. And of course, you can do your own research. You have Mr. Google now. In the old days, we used to have to catch a train, go to the state library and learn then that they didn't have any books, and we'd have to come back and start again looking in other places. Thank goodness for the Theosophical Library. I don't know whether any of you know about it, but the Theosophical Library in Russell Street is just the most fantastic and wonderful resource for me, and I couldn't have really done the study that I have as easily as I have without this fantastic resource. Okay, so I think that's enough of me talking today. Please do go to the course and download it. It will help you if you're a yoga teacher, and it will help you if you're just learning for yourself. In the course, at the back, you'll find two charts, one of the spine showing the relation of the cerebrospinal fluid, and you'll see one drawing of the series of movements that I talked about yesterday and we still haven't done today. We will. The movements for the process that I use as part of my restorative classes. I wish you could do a restorative class with me. It's quite different doing a restorative to the camera, I must say. It's not nearly as nice as doing it with you. Anyway, have a lovely day. And think of me eating the raspberries out of my fabulous garden. Namaste. Thank you.